Okay, so I get asked about like best practices on knowledge base and how to get the assistant to kind of replicate domain specific or business specific knowledge like pricing and FAQ objection handling. So I'm going to go through just easy way to kind of set it up right now just until V2.1 comes up, but there's more options for knowledge and knowledge retrieval. They have a couple options now, but I'm going to show you the best one that I would use. So I'm going to take this one out. I have a brand new blank assistant with no prompt. And so we're strictly going to be using knowledge base for answers here. And I'm going to be bringing the temperature down here to 0 so that the assistant is very objective in its answers. And I'm going to go here to a new knowledge base. I'm going to take this blank knowledge base and we're going to fill it with domain knowledge specifically for this specific assistant, which is our business. And I'm going to have it answer questions about our business. Now I'm going to switch this knowledge base out for this new one. All right, no calendars, no tools. I don't have any verbiage. We're just going to be using the knowledge base for answers on this one. So I brought my temperature down. I'm not going to use a prompt, just knowledge base on this one. Okay, I have a couple things pulled up here on information. So there's just a couple of the crash course docs. I have the documentation page and then the main website. I'm going to open up this new knowledge base here. And what I'm going to do is you can use ChatGPT or Claude in this example, but this is if I were just to put something in broad today, how to like really put something in where knowledge is like spitting out consistently, which is probably going to be our, you can either use the file scrape, the FAQ or text, um, or any of the other ones that'll get queued right now until 2.1. But FAQs tend to be the best because it kind of correlates relationship between these things. And so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and have this up. I'm going to take our main website and I'm just going to go all the way down like this and copy and paste. Then I'm going to go into Claude. You can use ChatGPT. I'm going to paste this and say generate FAQs to be vector stored for my sales chatbot. And what this will do is this will generate kind of a list of FAQs based off of this. And then what I'll do is I have another tab open. I'm just going to move this conversation over there so I can just paste the FAQs when they're done. Okay. So let me do this. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take each one of these FAQs and I'm just going to copy and paste it into here. And where's my knowledge base at? I'm going to bring this over here. So question, relevant answer. I'm going to do this all the way down. I'm not going to bore you with this. Okay. So I've copy and pasted all those in here. I'm going to upload this and you can name it whatever. How I'll usually do it is I'll do FAQs/homepage just so I know where it came from. And then what I'm going to do under the same kind of idea with these FAQs is I'm not even going to upload anything else. I'm going to have Claude kind of elaborate on those FAQs that it just did. I'm going to say something to the effect of, can you elaborate further for sales specific questions and implementation questions for the vector stored chatbot. And what it should do is just kind of put out some, more elaborate answers and questions to those things. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and I'm just going to put that under FAQ homepage elaboration. And so again, I'm not going to bore you with this, but I'm going to copy and paste this into there and then we'll move on to the next thing. Okay, and now I'll save this one. And I'm just going to put FAQs/homepage/elaboration. Again, you can name it whatever you want, but this is just how I kind of format things, just so I know what everything is. Okay, and now since I have kind of the homepage elaborated on, what I'm going to do now from questions that may come up on this, which these kind of included most of the pricing things and just kind of information about the company. What I'll do is I'll take some of these crash courses I have on custom tools and I will put these in here into Claude and say generate FAQs on the process of number importing for the vector stored chatbot. All right, and it's going to generate FAQs for questions that may come up about, I guess this one's custom tools. So custom tools, and then I'll put this in there just in case someone asks about that in there as well. Again, not going to bore you with this, but I'm going to create another one, and this one is going to be FAQ slash custom tools crash course. Okay, so now I have this. I'm just going to name this one FAQs custom tools. And now the elaboration on this is I'm just going to do the same thing as last time, is I'm going to tell it to elaborate on the FAQs from a sales perspective. If someone has questions about functionality and integration for a vector stored chatbot, use persuasive and excited language around the answers that functionality is unlimited. All right, so it's going to generate these, and the same thing, I'm not going to bore you with these, but the same thing that it outputs, I'm going to put back into the vector store. And now I'll tell you, when you're doing something like this, make sure your information is correct, right? Because this is like when AI gets the context of these answers, right, in the knowledge base as it's having conversations, because this is done on a per run basis. So every time somebody asks something, we're pulling the most relevant information and feeding it as context. Make sure these are correct. Because if not, you'll get that answer, right? It'll be fed to the AI, and then if the answer is not correct, obviously it's not going to give the correct answer. So make sure if you're doing something like this that the answers that you're giving are correct. So I'm going to go through and copy and paste these. Okay, same thing. I'm going to put FAQs, custom tools, elaboration. And now I can go through here and I can pull past conversations and kind of use that for context too. What I think on, perhaps I may just do one more, which is this number importing, and then we'll go ahead and we'll test her out. Okay, I think that's fine. I'm just call this FAQs SIP trunking. All right, so I'm gonna let all of that embed real quick, and usually it's good to give like vector stores like 10-15 minutes to kind of settle with all of their data. But what I'll do is I'll just go back here, and just for this example, right, I'll just say answer the user with context, because this is fed to it as context, right? And we don't need calendars, we don't need tools, we don't need verbiage. I have my temperature set to low, so the lower your temperature, the more objective your answers will be from an assistant, from an AI model. This is just across the board. That's what temperature is determinism versus more random. So the lower your temperature, the more deterministic, or the better your answers will be with all of the knowledge that you've put in there. You don't have to do this. I think it's generally set at 3.5 out of the box, but I'm bringing mine down low just for this interaction of testing. And so probably still want to give it a little bit of time here, but I think we can come in here and play around. So if I go in here, we have test knowledge base. Now I'm going to bring, for testing, right, under autopilot, the wait time down to 0. In prod, you probably, or like in deployment, when you're actually using this thing, I'd probably have 15 to 20 second wait, which just allows for more queuing. Also makes it seem a little bit more human. But in testing, I'm just bringing this down to 0 so we can get like really fast answers. And so what I'll do here is I'll ask a question like, how much is voice minutes? And the idea here is like, how would it know? Because we have no prompting telling it to, or we have no instructions telling it on what to say. And this is where the vector store becomes very, very powerful, because it's fed to it as context when it comes to like the actual answers. And so I'll show you where to find like kind of the triage steps, or kind of look at the knowledge base in here to see where the answers are coming from. That way you can kind of optimize your setup in there. And here's where you'll kind of see that, again, we have no prompt in this specific assistant, right? We have no prompt with where it could have pulled this answer It's because this answer is being pulled as context from this knowledge base. And so if you want to see what's coming up, we give you a little look behind the scenes on everything we do. We're super, super transparent in like the entire process, right? And so you can see all of the logs that happen in an interaction, and you can see the embedding process down here for the embedding and the embedding complete. And so if you open this up, you can see the context that was fed from the FAQ here, right? So I asked how much are voice minutes. Again, no prompt. How would it know this? But it's fed via the embedding here to say how much are voice minutes. Voice minutes are 7 cents per minute billed down to the millisecond of connected talk time. And this is how you're able to give really, really specific answer. Again, kind of the idea of scaling prompt here. The smaller your prompt is, the better your stuff will work. That's any platform in the entire world. AI is super smart, but it's not intuitive. And it's also really good at following instructions. And sometimes we as humans are not good communicator on instruction. And so the less you have, the more you can do. And so that's why we use all these peripheral services, all these tools to be able to help our chatbot be super deterministic, answer questions while still following instructions. And you never really get the off the rails, right? You never really get the erroring on generation or tool calls and things like that. So you can see that's where it kind of pulled this context and brought it into the conversation here. And so now I'm going to ask it about some like plans, like what plans we have and what they mean. And again, no prompt, we'll see what it says. And so I said, what plans do you have? And we're going off the idea, again, no prompt here. So how would it know? And this is going to be pulled from the knowledge base, right? So I said pay as you go plans on voice. This is the context that it pulled in here. And this is where you can kind of do a little bit of knowledge base, like, you can bring in your knowledge base for things like making it better, right? Deleting or replacing specific things in your vector store if the answer is not exactly what you're looking for. Like this time it says, you can cancel your plan at any time. I went to a cancellation thing. And so maybe on this one, if I have what plans do you offer, I'd want to go back and take this, right? Go into my knowledge base, and perhaps I'd want to go in here in the FAQ and say, what plans do you have? We have 3 plans. $225 for 3 sub accounts, $450 for 10 sub accounts, and $975 for unlimited sub accounts. And then I could put this in here as this will be plans. But this will be kind of how you optimize your knowledge base, especially if it's like not that this is like a wrong answer specifically, but it's not exactly the one I was looking for. So I'll refine based on this question right here. And now let's ask it about what the difference on the pricing is and what plans and how much they cost. Okay, so just ask it what are the plans, right? And what's the difference in them? And so now we see we have $225 for 3 sub accounts, $450 for 10, $975 for unlimited. And the main difference is the number of sub accounts each plan supports. There we go. Now we have our tangibly good answer in there, right? And what we'll do now is we'll kind of elaborate on that, and we'll ask about custom tools. Okay, and so I just said something to the effect of, I need functionality that no one else has, don't know if you guys would be able to do it, etc. And then we'll be able to see the kind of the context pulled in for this of, we thrive on customization. Our tool architecture is designed to adapt to any specific needs. If there's an API, we can automate it. And so then again, I'll kind of ask it to elaborate on it. So this was like the answer that was kind of given in the FAQs, right? Is that with our tool infrastructure, we can pretty much do anything that someone wants. And so I'll ask it to elaborate on that and say, what does it mean? And so as that's generating, again, we can always come back in here and check and see, like, this is what the output was. This is what it gave on the idea of like the answer from the knowledge base. So if you want to audit that or make it better. So there we go. Creating custom solutions. And now let's ask something about, what did I put in there? So I put in there FAQ, SIP trunking. So let's ask it about numbers. So I asked it about phone numbers, like how much are phone numbers? And you see it was able to pull from the knowledge base. Numbers are $250 per month, but you can connect your own phone number through SIP trunking. And now let's ask it about SIP trunking. Okay. So I just asked it about SIP trunking here. How does that work? and it should give me an elaboration. Allows you to import your own number as long as they have SIP trunking, current phone provider of the internet, making transition seamless. So as you can see, like, is this perfect? It's good enough, right, for something with no prompt, zero prompt. The prompt is answer the user. And this is where you would kind of use your knowledge, your prompt, your tools to kind of elaborate on a ton of this. And there was something yesterday. I'll pull this up real quick. I dropped this in, funny enough, a calendar debugging guide of all things, but where everything goes for like a really scalable, objective solution that's like that you can use in prod. And prompt you'll use mostly for the identity, response guideline, style guide rail, the things that we give you, and then like maybe an important point section and an instruction set, so a task-based framework. The idea is like on this, you want your prompt to be as concise and short as possible. Like that's how you get super reliable output from an AI in general. Is like the less instruction, but the more concise they are, the more detailed they are, the better it'll react to those instructions given the conversation with the user, right? Where knowledge base is where you'll store your domain knowledge, your business specific knowledge, things like FAQs, objection handling, price. Like on that, we could have taken some of the scrapes, or even if we have it internally, an objection rebuttal guide, general FAQ guide, whatever we need, where it's like key value pairs, right? Like question, answer, objection, rebuttal, things like that. Sales processes, you can put like training in there for that, right? So it's like if they say this, you say this. And that's kind of the best thing to put in the knowledge base, so you don't have to put it in the prompt, right? Because again, you want your prompt to be as short and concise as possible, where that domain knowledge can be fed as context via the knowledge base. And anything other than these two things right here, if you want to pull true, like live data, live context into a conversation, that's where you'll use your tools, either through a context injection, which would give you as a workflow action in GoHighLevel, or you can use a tool call to call to a third-party data provider. It can be Google Sheets, it can be Airtable, it can be any live data set where you can take information and bring it back in. It could be even a Bing or Google search. I have endpoints for that on custom tools. But that's how you kind of really scale this thing out, right? Low temperature, make it super deterministic, make your prompt short. Really the only things you should have in there is the personality, response guideline, style guide rail, just to kind of keep it. It knows who it is, it knows how you want it to respond, it knows what kind of style is, like casual, formal, whatever. The guardrails around that, some important points if you need them. So if you have like really like these things are super important, it cannot forget these. Do it in like a bullet point, important information, type section, and then your instruction set, which is your task-based framework. And any domain specific knowledge, throw it in your knowledge base. Make sure it's super robust. Make sure the information that you're putting in there is really good, because the quality of the input on the knowledge base equals the quality of the output and interactions with your chat assistants, your voice assistants, whatever. And then use tool calls for live data. Tool calls are a little bit more, advanced, especially with something like a custom tool integration or something like that. But if you really want that live data, you want that live pulling of information, or you even want something like complex pricing, complex quoting, that can be done via a tool pretty easily. And I'll have, we have a custom tools crash course, but we'll elaborate on it further of how you can use those specific use cases in custom tools for some of the ones that we've done personally. But this is a great way to kind of understand where everything should go and how to format it so you get that really objective stuff, because we have people come from every platform in the world, every walk of life, technical, non-technical, never touched really a computer until GoHighLevel came along, up to people who were, coding back in the 90s for, startups that, went through that boom. And this tends to be the best way for a super reliable output. I get asked all the time, with mine, I've never had an error on mine. I've never had, maybe one or two incorrect, pieces of information at thousands and thousands of conversations. And it's through a structure like this that we make these things very, very scalable, and we make them very reliable, and we make them very deterministic while also being conversational, so that we have the aspect of the AI handling all these conversations, but it's doing it with objective information, with objective tool calls, and knowledge specific to the business, especially when it comes to pricing. So hopefully this is helpful to kind of get you started. And again, this is just kind of covering knowledge base. You can elaborate on this with the prompt. You can elaborate on this with custom tools for live data. But this is how, if I were to put something in production today for a client, or if I were doing this for myself for support, sales, customer success, this is how I would feed the knowledge base with really, really good quality information that I was able to audit and look at, because we can scrape the site, right? But, there may be even stuff on your site that's like inaccurate or outdated, or not structured well enough for good context. And so this is a good way to do it, where you can see even with zero prompt we're able to give tangible, like, quality answers. Zero prompt, right? So hopefully that's helpful to kind of get you started with knowledge base. There's how you do it. There's a great way to kind of get you started. This way is a little bit more manual, but again, if you're a stickler on good answers and you want this thing to give proper information, the best way is to kind of do that, where you can audit the information that goes into it, right? And again, site scraping is great, but the information, you would have to make sure it's like perfect on your site, and sometimes that's not the case. So good way to get started. That's how knowledge base works. Hopefully this is helpful on the idea of scaling your AI deployment, right? And this gives you maybe a little bit of inspiration on helping your clients, or even building your own. So hopefully that helps.